The Browns said thanks, but no thanks. Even after they missed out on Robert Griffin III from Washington trading for the draft pick, the pick to get him.
And that hurts. I mean, Cleveland right now, that's hurting for them because they're not getting any good, they're not really getting any buzz at all.
They're going with Colt McCoy as their starting quarterback, it looks like, again next year.
And I'm not one to bash any team out of just spite, but I got to say, that's not very good, Cleveland, at all. But, okay, let's get back to Matt Flynn here. Now, I'm actually kind of surprised a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, at the fact that there's not any teams reaching out to him, at least for a backup role. And I think, I don't know, maybe Matt Flynn thinks he can get more money than he thinks. I really don't know.
Well, okay, here's my thinking on Matt Flynn. Okay. First of all, I think Matt Flynn thinks he can be a starter in this league. Second of all, I think he thinks he's going to get big money off that Week 17 game against Detroit. I know you watched that game, so you can go a little bit more into depth about it. But, we've seen Matt Flynn play in the preseason, okay? Matt Flynn's a good backup in this league. But is he worth starters' money?
I really don't think so. And the reason why I say that is because what has he done to prove himself to get such a reputation to get that money? What has he done to prove it? He's played one game against a team that was already in the playoffs.
Detroit?
Yes, and it was Week 17 of the season. He threw 6 touchdown passes and 1 interception. And what did it prove? He was playing against a team that was benching its starters. They were already in the playoffs. It was the last game of the season. What really did he prove by that to get this high demand if he thinks he can get it? And I think the reason why he isn't getting signed right now and hasn't even gotten any interest from teams is because he thinks he's worth more than he is.
Well, also, let's be fair to little old Matt Flynn, because he has to wait for Peyton to sign so the market's set,
I do agree, but you have to think there's 32 teams out there, and I'm sure there are some teams that need a backup at least, and I know that not all teams are waiting for Manning. There are a lot of teams that are.
Yeah.
But, Matt Flynn, to me, I don't think he's done anything to put himself in that caliber to even say that he's waiting for Manning at this point.
He's meeting with the Seahawks, which, we've heard reports that the Seahawks may be interested in Peyton Manning. We don't think that's going to happen, but, we've heard it. So, we know for sure Matt Flynn is at Seahawk facility today meeting.
Yeah, and Peyton Manning, I think Seattle is a possibility for him, but I don't think it's going to happen because he hasn't even really, thought about meeting with them yet, and I'm pretty set that Tennessee might sign him because they're so adamant about it. Really never seen the team really go all out as much so far for Peyton as I have Tennessee, so in my heart it says Tennessee. That's where Peyton's going to sign, but we will see what happens, in the days to come. So let's move on to another team that has been making so many great moves lately, the Washington Redskins.
Oh, Daniel Snyder, he can't lay off in free agency.
Oh, they've been doing such a good job. No, okay. But no, okay. Their latest signing was Pierre Garçon, and
they overpaid. What's new, though?
Is that what they're trying to sell the fans now?
Well, they also signed Josh Morgan, which they also overpaid for.
But I don't want people to get confused. We're not haters, but we have to just look at the history of the Washington Redskins of what's been given to us here. Donovan McNabb, that whole thing, that was probably one of the worst things I've ever seen happen to a quarterback.
Well, it just sums up Daniel Snyder, and it's a microcosm of his career as an owner. I respect the man because he'll go out and try to win every year. He doesn't necessarily make the smart move.
Not all the time. And one thing I do want to mention before I move on to Albert Haynesworth and just say how bad that was.
That contract was the worst in NFL history.
Yeah.
I refuse. I seriously question someone to find me a worse contract in NFL history.
Actually, we don't even have to go into it because that's exactly what it was. It was just a bad signing. $100 million contract. I'm sure that he didn't get $100 million guaranteed, which obviously that's the case.
But he still made a ton of money, and he barely played for it.
Exactly. He barely played. there's also players that are getting caught up in this. Like, okay, we can't talk about every single bad signing the Redskins have made, like Antoine Randall El. I mean, he was never a good player to begin with anyways.
Well, we could go out forever about the players they overpaid for because they overpay for every damn player they sign.
Exactly. But we have to focus on just the main mistakes. I mean, and Albert Hainsworth, I mean, that's just – and Donovan McNabb, those two, I mean, to pay that much money for players that – played for not even a year, and really didn't give their all at all in even one game. I mean, it's like, not to bash, McNabb, but I mean, it's just not a good fit.
Okay.
He's old, and now he's looking at. He's trying to become an announcer now. He's on set with, I mean, come on. It's just, where is the Redskins going now?
Well, and look at for instance their signings: Pierre Garcon and Josh Morgan. Okay, you got Santana Moss under a huge contract. He's looking like he's on the way out. Like, this makes no sense at all. The Redskins need a freaking offensive line. They need a quarterback. They could use some bolstering in the defensive backfield, and let alone defensive line.
Well, let's just start with the star first. Let's just get one good player in there that's going to be there for more than 1 year that's going to dominate. And let's start with that, and then we can move from there.
Yeah, they seem to think Robert Griffin III is going to be the answer, and I'm not one to write him off because me and Giff analyzed tape of college. It is what it is. It's a huge risk, high reward. We'll see how it goes with Robert Griffin III. But they also traded away a lot to get that pick, to have the right to choose that man and pay him a lot of money.
Yeah, and anytime in the draft when you were going high, I mean, it's still a risk because you don't know how the player is going to pan out in the NFL. I mean, you just never know. So, I mean, they risked a lot for him, and we'll see if that's the direction they decide to go in. I mean, Mike Shanahan, I mean, we don't really know what direction he's going in. We never do.
Well,
I mean, it's up to him to make that decision. And right now, if that's their direction, but honestly, I really don't know what they're going to do.
Well, Mike Shanahan's unpredictable. I mean, let's be honest, he's one of the greatest offensive tacticians this league's ever seen, and he's reinvented the West Coast and run blocking schemes that I've never seen before, and he's a great coach. But does he necessarily have a vision? He thought McNabb was going to be his guy, okay?
And I can't necessarily blame him for that because McNabb has had proven success in the league, and if you have a really good defense, you can do a lot worse than McNabb as your quarterback. But it just what he was asking McNabb to do really just wasn't a good fit at all. I mean, It just wasn't.
And speaking of asking people to do stuff, let's get to the Saints bounty program. It's been the huge talk of the NFL season, and okay, I'm not here to toot my own horn, but after the Minnesota game in the NFC Championship, I said specifically, I'm not lying, the Saints had a bounty out for Brett Favre, and I've seen it for years, and people were looking at me like I was crazy when I would tell them the Saints had a bounty program.
I even thought that you were crazy at one point because of that, because I honestly didn't think that was even going on. I mean, I really didn't until I actually took a step back, looked at what every player around the league was saying, and really understood what was going on. I mean, and really when it comes down to it, if you're getting $10,000 of unmarked bills laid down to you in crisp, clean cash, are you going to go out there and hurt a player if you're only making $750,000 to $1 million a year and you're getting taxes taken out of that and you're paying for a home? $10,000 of crisp, clean cash.
Which Jonathan Vilma offered before the Saints-Vikings game. Okay, you got a player, Anthony Hargrove, who had one of those questionable hits on Brett Favre during the NFL championship game. He has legal fees. I mean, look, Giff knows about his legal fees. He played for Buffalo. He has legal fees. He's making the league minimum. He's a guy who's not guaranteed a job from year to year, so he needs to do what he's told by Greg Williams and the team leader of the defense, Jonathan Vilma. And what happened with that was Jonathan Vilma put up 10 G's on Brett Favre's head. So whatever you want to make of that, Anthony Hargrove's going to do whatever he wants for that. And Anthony Hargrove's a guy who's fighting for a contract. And if Greg Williams is putting this on the line, Greg Williams, wherever he coached, Giff can go in about Corey Wire from Buffalo saying Greg Williams had a bounty program in Buffalo when he was there.
Yeah, and I'm not going to – I don't want to pin this all on Greg Williams, but honestly, if you're a player coming into a place of work every day and you're just trying to do your job, and somebody's laying out 10,000 plus on the table for you to go out there and hit a player, I mean, in a sense, I mean, it's almost hard to say no because it's your job to begin with. But if you're going to go out of your way, and it's so easy to, and a coach, nonetheless, is laying out money